what did you learn in this process? Like if you had like two things that came to mind for these folks of like manifesting a huge visionary event, like what two things come to mind? Like, hey, I was able to manifest this because these two things. What do you think comes to mind?
Oh my gosh, Brendan. Well, it's wild to answer that because I don't know if I've processed it all. Do you know what I mean?
I know you haven't.
Yeah, it's like happening in real time. So you guys, right before Brendan and I just hopped on live, we're in the room, we're in a filming room right now, and with other people here, my publisher from Simon & Schuster was just on the phone, and we're processing everything happening live. But I think that, you know, what I would say is just, it also, you know, it starts with believing that it's possible and being willing to put yourself out there. And you know, we talked about this a little bit with just being willing to try something. I had no idea how this would go. It was my first ever live event that I've ever done.
Show up every day. Yeah. She showed up for her belief and her dream every day. And now she's, you know, the #1 best new release on Amazon. So already a #1 bestseller, her first book. She pulled off her first event yesterday. 200,000 people watched. Yeah. So why can't you dream? Why can't you try something you've never done before? Why can't you say, you know what? I have this feeling in my heart, and that feeling in your heart has been sown there. She and I both believe in a creator. We believe in God, and there's some divine reason you've been gifted with all of those impulses you have, those dreams. They've been sown, I always say, they've been sown into your heart. And if they're there, follow them, work for them, ask for them, dream for them. And if you do it over and over and over for a decade, like she has in, you know, she did It Cosmetics, and then for what, the last 2 years? So yesterday was the culmination of 2 years.
Yeah.
And not just her, you know what's cool? It's not just her last 2 years. It's Dean's team mastering the model. It's Sage teams mastering the production. It's Tony building the studio. Like all these serendipitous things had to have happened across 4 or 5 teams and across what, 19 speakers. All these things happening in all of our lives all had to come together to one day. And it only happens because every one of them is moving their lives forward.
Yeah.
And so you want to be around the people. This is why we talk about Growth Day so much. You want to be around that spirit of people who are absolutely growing, moving towards their dreams. Even if we can talk about discouragement and we can have empathy and we can be like, oh, life is hard and it's a struggle. We can honor the struggle and just keep moving things forward. Because think about it, if all those people hadn't been moving their lives forward in the last 2 years, the innovation required to pull off yesterday would not have happened.
Yeah.
Right? So it all came, it's what Paulo Coelho, one of my mentors and great friends, he wrote the book The Alchemist, best-selling, the most followed author in the world online, and the 5th best-selling book of all time, The Alchemist. Here's what he said in The Alchemist. He says, when you pursue your dream, all the world conspires to support it.
So good.
And so you think she put this book out there, she put this event out there, and all the world, the last 2 years, is conspiring. Isn't that beautiful?
It's so beautiful. So that just asks, you know, that reminds me. So what is your dream right now? Like you're joining us live right now on the Growth Day Morning Show. What is something on your heart that if you just put it out there, if you put it out there more boldly, if you take that step, if you make that ask, if you ask someone to show up for help, how is the world then going to conspire, right? All the world conspires for you. And
you show up each day.
Yeah.
And you work with faith.
Yeah.
How many times was this event in your mind and this book launch in your mind a train wreck? In the last 4 weeks, how many times did you cry? Did you get overwhelmed? I don't want you all to see this beautiful makeup she puts on and this beautiful soul she is yesterday.
I've taken off on the morning show. I've taken my makeup off on the Growth Day Morning Show.
I just want you all to listen very closely. What you saw yesterday didn't feel that smooth in the manifesting of the dream.
Yeah, so good.
Right? The output. No one sees the hours and the tears and the frustration and the late night phone calls and texts, right? That we all do. She does, I do, like we commiserate together. And then when you show up though, it's game time. You show up, it's your Super Bowl, you're ready, you're gonna deliver. Like yesterday, she just delivered for 14 hours. 14 hours. So I just want you to understand, it's okay that you look like a hot mess right now. It's okay that yesterday you cried because you felt so far away from the dream.
Yeah.
Do you show up every day with faith and work for that momentum, work for that growth, work for that contribution, that difference, that impact, that change in your life?
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's because for years, all these people were working with faith each day to move their lives forward, that then the serendipitous thing could happen. But pull one of them out. If I hadn't, like years ago, had to figure out the 7-day live launch, that is like the model we all use for challenges now. If Tony didn't pivot from live events in the pandemic, if Dean Graziosi didn't pivot from TV to online, if all the speakers hadn't at some point in their life pivoted from doing their one job to I want to share a message. If all that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Yeah. This is one reason you have to, in some way, in my opinion, you got to believe in a God or a higher order or some grand design that's so beyond us, because that seems so magical. Yesterday was a 14-hour movie, and it was a movie of possibility. I hope you'll watch it. You can still sign up to go see the replay. Yeah. And if you go to believeit.com, is that right? Is that where she's at?
Go to believeit.com, becomingunstoppable.com in the Facebook group there. Yeah, the replays are up right now. They're going away. Yeah, and you know, it was something that was so special. By the way, one thing Brendan just said too is like the messy part, right? I think that's so important, because I think all of us sometimes feel alone during that messy part, or like it's just us. There was so many messy parts, so many details, so much hard work, so many tears that went into yesterday's event, but also that went into the book launching today, my first ever book launching today. And, you know, we're just like everyone else, even though the event was incredible, 214,000 people watched it.
How did you develop confidence? And when it goes away, how do you get it back?
Yeah. Okay. So 2 things. And I love, Brendan, that we're going into Confidence Week, right? And that we're going from Vision Week into Confidence Week, because I think the two are so closely linked also. Because again, for me, how I get back to that place of confidence is I remember the vision, right? And one thing that I want to say is, like, when you're talking about, you just have faith in your ability to figure things out, and you know, your car might not be the prettiest one that you build in that moment, but you also kind of know where you're going. And I just think the two are really tied. And, you know, one quick story that I just want to share in case it's of value to anyone as we go into Confidence Week is, in building It Cosmetics, right? There were so many things that, and our whole mission as a company wasn't to sell products that work, even though that's what we did. It was to instill confidence, and to shift the entire definition of beauty that we were all raised with, right? And it was more important to me to help women and our customers feel confident all the time, not just when they feel like wearing a makeup product, but more importantly, when they don't, on the days they don't. You know what I mean? And so this was confidence was a huge focus for what we did and what we built. And I just want to share one thing, because as we come out of Vision Week and you shared your battle board and everything else, you know, I think us knowing where we're going, I really believe is so important for confidence. And at It Cosmetics, you know, I did so many things wrong along this journey of going from my living room and not being able to afford to hire anyone for 3 years to building over 1,000 employees and a $1 billion company. But one of the things I did right was we kept the vision in the heart and soul, literally in front of everyone physically. And that helps you keep confidence in your product development decisions and your hiring decisions, in how you show up on the day. And so to get really granular, when you walked into our offices, and I think this is important because, listen, most of us are working in our living room right now, but we can set up our living room this way, or we can set up the closet we're recording our podcast out of this way, or we can set, you know, maybe it's as simple as when you open your drawer, you have a reminder right there, right? We can do this in your closet. We can do this in all different ways, but every single employee in the whole company got a little sign that went on their desk that had all of like our whole mission in photos of why we're doing what we're doing. And the customer was at the heart and soul of it. Wow. Right in the center, right? And this became everyone's screensaver. This was printed out, put on every person's desk. When you walked into the offices right in the lobby, our whole mission statement was on the front wall. And then we had these kind of pillars of belief that we believed in as a brand, and the impact we wanted to make in the world and on every person that came in touch with our products. And those little beliefs, we painted them all over every place of the office. So if you walked into a conference room, you saw a belief. If you went into the bathroom, you saw a belief. If you, like, they were everywhere. And we ended up referencing this back a lot, and I mean a lot, over the years. And I want to share this with everyone, because I think in this journey of your own vision, but also in being confident, right? A lot of people, that's the one thing that for them will change everything if they just figure out how to be confident in themselves. Yes. And if you know who you are, where you're going, the words you want to say to yourself about yourself, even if you don't believe them yet, when you figure out all of those things, I think having them clear in places in front of you. So on every employee's desk, we had, you know, in this frame, these 4 photos of all the things we stood for, and in the center was our customer at the heart and soul of it. And you know, wow. Every time something happened, Brendan, for example, there'd be a big trend in the marketplace, and everyone's making money off selling something, and the retailers are asking our company to create it. And so I have the team coming to me who wants to hit their sales goals. And they're like, okay, listen, here's what and we would go back to that photo. I'd be like, okay, does this serve her? Like, look at me and I would say this, like, tell me, is her life better? If literally, is it better? Does it bring her joy? Does it solve her problem? Does this fit our vision of where we're going? And usually the answer is no. And then boom, we don't launch that product, or we don't go into that retail partner, or
you
whatever.
Had clear intentions, they were stated, people knew it. That's where we talk about, even around, I love it how you said around your house. Last week I kept showing you guys my battle board, or talking about how I plan and schedule things. It's like, if those words and that purpose isn't there, it's so easy to get distracted over here or over there. Like, you have to, even with my clients, I always have them choose like 3 words that describe the best of who they are. And then I have them put those 3 words as a reminder in their phone. And so these reminders pop up every day that say these words that describe the best of who they are. So maybe your word, you know, this week or this month is confident, or maybe it's bold, or it's courageous, or it's thoughtful, or kind, or loving, or appreciative, whatever it is. But when those words pop up on your phone every day, you go, it starts ingraining that self-talk in your mind, reminds you, oh, right. Reorient to that, because those words are the labels you're giving yourself. And Jamie, you better talk about labels, because you promised them 3 days in a row. And if you don't do it, I'm going to get DMs all day long. What do you do with labels? How do they impact confidence? Because I'm telling you what, I don't want to be a labeled bad guy if I don't facilitate that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that, you know, we're not in life, we're not who other people say we are, right? We're who we believe we are. And I think that, you know, as we come out of Vision Week and go into Confidence Week, I think that we're going to spend a lot of time, I just have a feeling we're going to spend a lot of time this week, Brendan, just talking about this idea of how do we become confident? How do we become confident in our own dreams, confident in ourselves? How do we overcome and break through the barriers of self-doubt? And, you know, I want to bring this up, and this might be a multi-day thing, but so many of us have been told, right? So my amazing husband, Paulo, I hope he's not going to kill me for sharing this, but we were talking about the topic of labels, and he was raised by like loving parents, but he would always be told, you're the athletic one, your brother's the smart one, right? And then as they grow up, we hear these things, right? And sometimes we let these labels take root, and sometimes it's a family member that says it, or a friend that says it, or somebody at school that says it, or a colleague, or it's ourselves saying it to ourselves. But those words, those labels that we give ourselves can be used, to Brendan's point, to really empower us and give us vision and confidence and help us to believe. But there's also labels that for a lot of us are old labels that we're still letting take root and stick to us. And like, oh, it's a new day. It's time to remove some of those old labels. And I don't know who out there needs to hear this right now on the Growth Day Morning Show, but we've all had labels put on us, and they do not, some of them don't serve us. And so, yeah, I was telling Brendan, I had a paragraph in my my book about this that I wanted to share. So I'm just going to share it with you really fast, because this is big. And my prayer for everyone, I think that these labels can hold us back. And when we realize they're not permanent, they can really set us free on our own journey to confidence. So I'm going to read this little excerpt from Believe It. Brendan, it's out in 3 weeks.
Go!
Freaking out. Okay, so here we go. In life, we aren't who people say we are. We're who we believe we are. We don't have to accept the labels that other people put on us. We're also not our family, for better or for worse, or our past mistakes. We're not a nickname someone gave us or a regrettable incident we miscalculated. It's easy to carry around old labels and mistake them for permanent ones, but they come with a light Post-it adhesive. So don't let yourself believe they're attached with super glue. They are removable. And sure, sometimes there's truth in some of those hurtful labels. Like for me, I'll share this story later in this week about procrastination, a season I went through. But we make new choices as we grow. We can change our minds and change our decisions about who we are and how we show up for ourselves, for others, and for the world at any moment going forward. Where we come from doesn't have to determine who we are or where we're going in the future.
Hey!
So, sharing that because
So good. That's from Jamie's book, Believe It, coming out this month. Y'all, you can pre-order on Amazon right now, or just go to believeit.com because she has some crazy bonuses for you. Give her a round of applause because that's such good writing, by the way.
It's so true.
I think you said a regrettable event or that you miscalculated.
Yeah, we're not our regrettable incidents that we might have miscalculated, right?
So good. Or didn't anticipate, It's yes, both of those, because a lot of people let that label from childhood or those high school kids or their first failures that were either they caused or were regrettably like random. And I love it. They're not super glue, she said. They're like, they're like not even good Post-it notes. They're like the cheap Post-it notes. They won't even stick to the wall. That's what labels really need to be for you. Accept the labels that you build into the foundation of your character. Yeah. Because you chose them. Because that's a different thing. It's like a name calling is a very different thing than character building. Yeah. Choosing who am I built upon? What am I built upon? Who am I really? And that's why I say choosing your words about yourself and reminding yourself about those, even on days when you suck and you're terrible and you don't do good. And you say that to yourself, like, I suck, I'm terrible, I'm awful, I'm worthless. We say these things to ourselves, and that self-talk builds into a pattern of thinking, a mindset, which becomes which mindset and pattern of self-talk over and over and over again, that becomes a psychological pattern, which becomes an identity. And that identity becomes something you operate out of. And so you reverse engineer that to structure yourself into a strong, capable, caring, loving, proud, ready, good learner who wants to go add value in the world. In other words, you make that, you tell that self, you tell that to yourself.
Yeah. And, I think too, so powerful. This is going to be such an amazing week on Growth Day Morning Show for everybody, because I just think if you are out there listening with me and Brendan right now, and you feel like you're the only one that you're like, even you're judging yourself, maybe it's not someone else that said something hurtful. Maybe it's you feel like because of a past mistake and
it's always you, just so you know, it's always you. They will listen, it's like, we always think, oh, they said this. No. You agreed with it. You accepted it. You believed that negativity. Because can you raise your hand? The haters will always be there. Does everyone agree? They will 100%. There will always be someone to doubt you, minimize you, scream at you, abuse you if you let it. That exists in the world. Let's not pretend that mean, negative people can't really hurt us if we continually believe what they say, if we choose to believe what they say, because we can choose to believe in something different, a different narrative about ourselves, a different story about ourselves. And so I think it's really important, because what happens in confidence is often, well, they. And at some point I'm like, yes, they will always be there. Who are you now? What do you want to architect into your character? What do you want to have repeating in your mind? That's the critical thing. Today, after a billion days, you in a hotel promoting Believe It book launch, you get to go home. How's it feel?
Yes, I am so excited. It's been a crazy stretch. Talk about momentum. Yeah, I've been in this hotel room for 21 days. 21 days. But I'm super filled up though with gratitude. I did a walk this morning, and I'm just like trying to appreciate the moment of everything. I'm so tired. Honestly, like I'm really, we've done, so 2 live events. So from the time I got to the hotel room, it's been 21 days. We did 2 live events, 15 Growth Day morning shows, 6 QVC shows. So the last 48 hours, why I'm here so long is I had a live event on Sunday, but then went right into a midnight QVC show. Then yesterday had 4 QVC shows plus another keynote. So it's just a lot, but also great. But if you want the truth, this morning, I literally, no joke, someone will understand me in our Growth Day community. Because I have more shows today before I fly home. So I was doing my makeup, and then I looked in the mirror, and my eyebrow, this one, I drew it way up here. I'm like, oh, I got to go home. I'm so tired. At the end of 21 days, I drew my eyebrow, and I'm like, okay. So I had to take it off, redraw it. I'm like, this is a good time to go home, to take a breath, and then to build the momentum again, because I'm so passionate. I'm so passionate about what I'm doing, and it's, I believe in it so much. So that's what makes it exciting. But yeah, it's been a long stretch, and a lot of momentum building. And in some ways I feel like too, it's just the beginning, right? Same for you. I mean, you've been working so hard on everything with Growth Day, and it's like, oh, but it's still just the beginning in so many ways.
I think that's the most important thing for people to get. It's like there's this hope that one day you don't have to keep the momentum going, or one day everything calms down completely. But if it's part of your purpose, you're always going to be working for it in some way. And it's not going to be easy. Yesterday I shot, oh my God, there's always something going on. Like right now, literally my little broadcasting here is just blowing up with all these, StreamYard's not connecting to Facebook, like all across them. So all
is it working on Facebook or no? Yeah.
No, it doesn't look like it.
No.
Or is it? Oh.
It is in some pages. Apparently.
Yeah, mine just went all these things saying it's not.
Oh
so
no. Okay.
It's like, but that's normal. It's something. Yeah. Yesterday I tried to film a sales video, registration video from one of our programs. And if for my audience who knows me, they've seen me on stage talk all day, uninterrupted, no notes. All of my 20 plus online courses I did, and almost all of them in one take. Literally an hour-long teaching, one take, no problem. 7 different topics for 7 hours, no problem. Yesterday I had to shoot a 10-minute video. Took me 3 hours. 3 hours, because halfway through I thought I nailed it. It was done. I was so excited. I wandered to the other room to get some water. I ran into Denise in the house, and she goes, "You have a bunch of toilet paper on your."
Oh no!
And I was like, "What?" Right into the other room, and I looked. I was like, I tried not to burst in tears because I was so tired. And I looked, and yet it looked like this little white mustache, and I was like, "Oh no!" So I went back to my computer and pulled up the replay, and of course you can see it. And I thought it took me 20 takes to get that video, and I had to reshoot it over, which took me another like 10. And it was just brutal. It was just brutal. So anyone filming video, you know what I'm talking about. So give a shout out to some empathy or something down below, because we've all been through it before. It's kind of like you did your eyebrow, I had a white mustache going on.
Yeah. That's
it's like
so
when
funny.
you are in launch window. I keep emphasizing to everyone, there's times in your life when you're launch window and it's so intense and it's so hard, and you just have to work on your attitude, keep showing up every day. Like momentum is all about movement every day. Show up every day. Maybe you don't get to do 3 hours on your project today, but you get 20 minutes. Make it a 20 minutes, like imbue it with energy, And maybe you only have, you wish you had this time to do these other things, and you only have this little window. That little window, make it count. But launch windows, you also go a little bit batty in the brain, at least I do. You're drawing eyebrows, white mustache. It's like you don't finish all your checklists of all the things you have to do. And guess what? That's life. Keep a positive attitude, keep chugging along.
And I think too, giving ourselves grace is so important. Like when we hopped on this morning to get ready for the live, I was laughing with Sarah here because I was like, you know what? I still feel like if I had not caught that and I still had one eyebrow up here, I was like, Brendan would still love me. The Growth Day community.
I was like, Jamie, you look great. What's happening? Good morning.
You're like, good morning. We're all family.
I wouldn't even, the best thing is I wouldn't even notice. That's the best thing. I wouldn't even notice. Denise would see it from 4,000 feet away. Me, I'm just Captain Oblivious. I'm in my message and in what I'm ever doing at the same time. I mean, anything could be happening. And I'm just so like Denise can walk into a room and I don't even know what's happening,
So you and I would be live. I would get a text from Denise and then I would know. I'd be like, okay, thank you, Denise. I would go fix it. See, Paulo my husband, Paulo, he wouldn't notice either. Actually, what's funny is when he and I met, he had one eyebrow all the way across and no idea. Now I love it. I think it's so cool. Like I
love that you put that in your New York Times best-selling book for him. I remember reading that in the book. I was like,
you do. Well, I think it's just funny because he was such an important part of building It Cosmetics, and it's just funny that when we met, he would never notice anything like that. And when we actually developed eyebrow products in the early days, this is before we had a team, before we had clinical testing and chemists and all the stuff that you build as you build. But in the early days in our living room, when we would test eyebrow products, it was us, right? And Jackie, who and so we would draw different products and I would have to draw them on Paulo too, because we needed multiple data points, right? Anyone out there scrappy right now, launching their dreams, starting it in their living room, building it up, trying to like if y'all have asked your friends and family to be your focus groups, then you'll know what I'm talking about, right? And in those early years, it was like even Paulo, there were days my sweet husband had all different eyebrows drawn with different pencils and he had to wear them. Like, no, this has to last 12 hours. You can't take it off. So we would work days in our living room with multiple eyebrows. Anyway, this morning with me just being so tired and drawing it up there just reminded me of that. But it's like fun times. And by the way, a lot of people feel like if they're in their living room right now and they're just starting their dream and they're still drawing the eyebrows on their partners and they're still asking their friends and family to be their focus group and all that, like those days still are some of the most fun days of momentum. Because even though you're in this space where, it doesn't feel like you're getting traction, you're still that momentum, even in the start of something, even when it's like not glamorous, that momentum is still really powerful. And then I also, everyone I know who's gone through the scrappy years that were hard, and everyone I know looks back and those are like some of their fondest memories, know, but when you're in it, you're like, how do I see past it? Am I ever going to make it? Am I ever going to get traction? You think all those things, like, especially when you don't want to see your own ATM receipt because it's painful. Like, you know what I mean? You hit the no receipt thing that's what I did for years. And it's hard to see past it, but everyone I know who has that breakthrough, whose company builds, right? Those are some of their favorite times. And so I just want to call that out this morning, just saying, like, I'm so fondly thinking about after misdrawing my own brow today, thinking about the days of Paulo and me and like all the eyebrows and Jackie, which by the way, Brendan, I was live on QVC last night with Jackie. Which
that's
is
awesome.
So just full circle. And so just to share with everyone, she was the very first employee we were able to hire full-time at It Cosmetics. And we hired her when she was 6 months pregnant. She was a girlfriend of mine for so long and we could barely afford to pay her. So we were able to pay her first before we ever paid ourselves. And she was kind of like all in this journey. And so to see her last night, such a boss, like she runs a few departments at It Cosmetics. She's live on QVC selling a today's special value, crushing her sales goal, all these things. And I'm sitting there going on with my book, right, last night. And all I'm doing is going, wow, look at my friend. Like, look at my friend. You know what I mean? Like, she's like great? Flying. Yeah, it's so great. And she's such a boss. Gosh. And she, she had a really, really tough upbringing, which I won't get into here, but, she had a real tough childhood. And went from trailer park to trailer park to trailer park. And, you know, she's someone, well, I share her story in my book with her blessing, but, you know, she ran away finally from an abusive household, and the police officer that arrested her for running away, him and his wife ended up adopting her as a teenager. She ended up figuring out how to go to school, and she is just someone who has always believed where she comes from doesn't have to determine where she's going. And when I met her, I just knew, I'm like, this is really, and we met Brendan, just to share with everyone really fast, sorry to get off topic, but I just think these moments are really special in life, how you meet friends, and you never know who's going to walk into your life, who's supposed to be part of it. And she and I met by dating the same sketchy guy. Like she was living with this guy. I met him in school, and we started dating. And then one day I get a knock on my door, and I open it, and he's at my house hanging out. I get a knock on my door. I open the door, and there's this beautiful girl sobbing, and it was Jackie. And that was the first day we ever met. And I'm like, come in. And she came in, and her boyfriend lied, and he's like, you know, it was a long story. I tell that in the book too. But anyways, she and I eventually ended up getting rid of him and then becoming really great friends. And now it's been a 20-year friendship. And now she runs 2 departments at It Cosmetics. And anyways, you never know when you live life with an open heart, right? You never know like who's going to walk into your life at any moment and change it forever. And I think that's anyway, so it was a special moment.
Serendipity, grace. That's serendipity. It's grace. I want to jump into 2 things Jamie just shared that I hope you all caught. She shared that, you know, a lot of the founders she knows, business owners she knows, who they look back to those build years with real reverence and nostalgia and like gratitude. And so for those of you who are building right now, where you feel just like all this stress and doubt, just have faith that stress and doubt becomes strength and development, right? That what happens one day, you get, because of the stress and doubt, you actually get stronger if you work through it. If you stop because of the stress and doubt, you always live there. But if you work through it, one day you get to look back at the stress and doubt or feel it as it is coming up less frequently because you've learned to master that side of your life. And suddenly you're grateful for it. I think that's so important. It's not that, and another shout out to Jamie, it's not that she doesn't have stress and doubt as she's launching her first book, but you can see it in her eyes in this morning show and on growth day, her energy, she's bringing joy to it this time. She's like having fun. I turned on the thing today because we do a pre-show before you guys get on, and she's just laughing and carrying on. I'm just observing my friend laughing and having a great time in the midst of a launch window. So you learn to do launches better. You learn to find peace. You learn to bring joy. You learn to feel the experience, and it gets different. And second thing I want to shout out about Jamie, which is what she just said, just watching her friend last night on QVC, which is just, I mean, what a beautiful story for International Women's Day yesterday. You know, here's Jamie celebrating her friend who's now getting a piece of the spotlight, you know? And so how can you in your own life, is there a friend who needs some appreciation today or elevation today? Is there a team member who needs some empowerment today? Who can you lift up today? Is there somebody you could just send a positive audio text to? Growth Day members, you know, I teach this, send 5 audio texts a day or texts of appreciation to people just to elevate them and lift their mood and spirit. No need for, you know, some kind of return of favor. It just send out goodness in the world. And you know what? The more goodness you send out, the more you get over yourself. You know, a lot of people want to find happiness and they think, well, I'll sit here and I'll meditate on my happiness all day. It's like, oh, you want to be happier? Send gratitude and prayer out for others. And that will get your mind, the monkey mind, off of like obsessing about your merry-go-round of doubts, and it'll put goodness into the world. Like put goodness into the world, appreciate, elevate other people, and just hear how Jamie's talking about her friend Jackie. She's just like so excited for her and celebrating her. And I've seen Jamie do that over and over for other women. So I hope you all will pick up her book, Believe It, because you're going to learn a mindset there of there is no competition when you're in your authenticity and you want to see other people rise up. It's a whole different path. And that's why she was able to go to this whole other level in building $1 billion business. So pick up Believe It if you haven't got it yet. And if you have got it, read those first 50 pages, Tell all your friends. Let's keep the momentum going for Jamie on Believe It.
How did you get over that? And how do you help women to go, no, like, don't do that to yourself. Like, you do have something, especially in the face of so much rejection, and you kept going. It seems superhuman.
The thing that I love is that you're talking about this, right? Imposter syndrome and all of that. And I talk about a lot of, stories pertaining to that in the book as well. The very first thing that is so important for everybody listening right now is like, literally everybody has it. I've never met a person who doesn't have it. Everybody has it, right? And so it's like, okay, that's the first thing. Because once we know that, we're like, this person I watch on television every day has it. Like everybody has it. And that, right, just wrapping our heads around that is really empowering, because it's like, okay, I'm not alone in this. It's normal. I feel unqualified. I feel all those things, right? Everybody has it. The second thing is, I do a lot of things when I start to feel it. Like I've built this, I talk about a little bit about this in the book, where I built kind of this own imaginary toolbox that I pull from when I catch myself going there. You know what I mean? And there's things I tell myself. One of them is, I'm trying to remember this part isn't in the book, but I'm just going to share it. I feel like it was Steve Jobs. I don't remember who said this, but one person shared this quote that was so powerful, and it's always stuck with me. They basically said, every single thing that's ever been built or created or done in the world was created by someone just like you and me. And when you think about it, it's true. Mm-hmm. It's all true. And I think about that. I write so many things. For me, when you see my circle of friends, they're all different faiths. Some of them have no faith. but their hearts are huge, right? So I love having powerful people around me that remind me of who I am and help talk me out of my BS when I start, like, I don't know if I can do. But for me also, I keep a lot of empowering statements around me that I pull from. And, one of them that's huge for me, because faith is a big deal to me, although I think this applies to anybody, no matter what their faith. But, there's a famous saying that really fills my soul when I start to feel imposter syndrome or doubt myself or feel like I don't have what it takes or like I'm not qualified, right? How many times do we feel like we're not qualified? And these famous words say, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. And for me, I feel like when we have a knowing in our gut, right? And we can't shake it, right? I feel like that's part of your calling or your purpose in life. And I think we can have multiple of those, but when you have it, for me, I kept feeling this calling, like I was supposed to create this dream, launch this dream. And I was supposed to do whatever I can to shift culture in the beauty industry. I just kept feeling it. And during all these years of no's, because when we finally created this product, and by the way, I just thought, as an entrepreneur, like so many people will relate to this. You're like, okay, this product is amazing. Finally, yes, it's just going to do well, right? Oh my gosh. The first 3 years, I couldn't even afford to pay myself, right? And every retailer we sent the product to either said no or never replied. Every meeting I got in person when I thought I was going to crush it and kill it. I remember this first big Sephora meeting I had, and I literally left the building, going down the elevator, walking as fast as I could to get out the door. This is in downtown San Francisco. And I could barely afford the plane ticket to get there. And it was a big no. And I was so devastated. I was trying, because the elevator ride down from this big no was filled with people that I'm guessing worked at Sephora. And I'm like, I'm a CEO. I cannot cry. I got to hold my shit together. I've got to make it. And I remember getting out of the elevator, rushing out the side of the building on Market Street and like pushing myself against this brick wall next to a fast food restaurant and just sobbing as hard as I could. It was no after no. QVC, I remember years of no. And I finally got the head guy, Alan Burke, who is responsible for building this billion-dollar empire on QVC. And he got all these luxury brands from department stores to want to sell on QVC, and they still do. And he's just a genius. And I remember finally getting him on the phone. And I remember pacing in the office, like so nervous because I needed a yes. And well, I should say pacing in our office, AKA the living room, because right. And he got on the phone and he's like, we've reviewed your products with all of our buyers. It's unanimous. You're not the right fit for QVC or for our customers. And I was so devastated because with my mission of wanting to shift culture around beauty, I just knew, oh my gosh, if I can get on QVC, it's not like a Photoshop magazine. It is live. It is live television to 100 million homes. And I could prove how my product works live. And I could show models of that represented every different type of and size and age and skin color and skin tone. And I just knew in my gut, right? I knew in my gut when we check in with our purpose, with our calling, with our mission, I knew that I was supposed to be on QVC. And to finally get this big call from the head of all of it, Alan Burke, telling me I'm not the right fit and we're not the right fit for QVC or their customers. It's devastating when people tell you you're not the right fit. And when people that you are so tempted to put on a pedestal because they're experts and they've created incredible things and they're known as visionaries. When touted visionaries are telling you one thing and your gut is telling you another, it's hard to keep going. It's also hard to feel like, well, wait, what if my gut is wrong? And what if I'm not enough? And what if I'm, like he said, not the right fit? And what if I'm not qualified? And here's the thing is, fast forward, a long time later, when we finally got one shot on QVC, we finally got a yes from a buyer, not from Alan Burke. We finally got a yes, and we got one shot, which came down to 10 minutes. And we would I knew, and here's the thing, Kathy, is at the time, and this was a little over 3 years into our business. So at the time, we were still selling like 2 to 3 orders a day on our website, barely keeping the lights on. And QVC needed us to manufacture, pay for, and ship in over 6,000 units of our Bye Bye Under Eye Concealer in order to sell in a 10-minute window to hit their sales target or not come back. And the biggest thing that was on the line was that in beauty, it was a consignment deal, which meant we had to pay for all of it, make it, ship it in, and we only got paid for what sold. So and as an entrepreneur, you know this, everyone listening knows this, like never take a purchase order you can't afford to lose. But in this case, we had nothing. This was our last chance at like not going out of business. And it was a big yes. And we decided to kind of risk it all. We applied for SBA loans to cover the cost of making the 6,000 units. 22 banks said no. It was bank number 23. They gave us enough money just to cover the purchase order in an SBA loan. So we had one shot on QVC and we had to sell, right? We had to hit their sales target, dollars per minute and not come back. When we got the one shot, I flew out there. I was there a week before. I went out a week before this airing and I sat in a rental car in the parking lot right out front every day. And I just sat there because it felt so heavy and so big. And I remembered, you talk about Oprah, actually. By the way, Oprah was the very first person to read the book cover to cover because I wanted her blessing on the parts I included about her. Otherwise, I would have never included. Of course,
you had that stories. Epic piece of this whole puzzle. My God, it's a crazy story. And I got her blessing at the very end of the book. I shared. Okay, when you talk about I've never, not to be off track, but I've never shared all the real story behind the story of everything. So this book is the first time, including all the personal stuff. But anyhow, I sat in that parking lot staring at the front door of QVC. And I remembered this Oprah episode where she talked about the color purple and how she was so obsessed with it that it felt like it was too much for her to carry anymore because she wanted it so bad. And someone had told her, oh, real actresses are up for the part. And right. And so she told the story of just going to a retreat where she was running the track in circles and singing I Surrender All and asking God to take it from her. And then Steven Spielberg called. And anyways, so I remembered this episode. Anyone who's seen that episode will remember. But I literally channeled that. I'm sitting in this car in the parking lot. I start singing I Surrender All because it felt too heavy for me to carry. It felt like the next time I walk through these doors,
at QVC, I'm either going to walk back out of business or with my whole life changed. It was one or the other because we had one shot. And if you do not hit the sales goal, you don't come back. And the hardest thing, and I talk a lot about learning how to tune in and trust our own gut and trust ourselves, even when everyone else is saying something different. And this was probably the biggest lesson I've ever learned in my career and life, was in this moment as it pertains to trusting my gut, because we had one shot. And what we did is we hired these third-party consultants, and they helped so many people sell their products so well on television and other channels as well. And when we met with them, they all said the same thing to me, which is, okay, if you want a chance at doing well, here's what you need to do. You need to use these type of models, which were just like the ones I had seen in magazines for years. And, you need to produce yourself this way. And I would say to them, okay, but what if I'm sitting at home and I have rosacea? Exactly. And what if I'm, 75 years old and I have hyperpigmentation? How is anyone going to know this product works for them if they don't see someone using it who looks like them? And, we would fight about it. And these experts wanted the best for me. They wanted me to win, but they were just telling me what they knew. Right. And this is so important, is so many times experts, visionaries, etc., you can never take it personally when they don't believe in your dream or think you have what it takes, because no matter how visionary they are, typically they still only will believe something will be successful if they've already seen it successful before. So if you're doing something new or novel or different, or you're going to put your own take on it, they're not going to realize they're doing this, but they're likely not going to think it's going to work, because subconsciously they've never seen it work before. And so I'm sitting there knowing I have one shot on TV, and knowing the experts are telling me use these type of models. And yet my gut instinct, my why, my authenticity, right? My authentic reason for launching this business is to not use that type of, to use every type of model, right? And it's really hard in these decisions in life when your experts are telling you one thing, your gut's telling you another. And we had one shot. And I just remember this moment sitting in that car, singing I Surrender All, crying. And I just remember thinking of, who is this woman that's going to be watching me? If I have the blessing of her spending her precious time turning her television on and seeing me, I'm not going to waste it. I'm not even going to focus on, let me sell as much as I can. What do I want to stand for? And I just remember having this moment hit me where I imagine so many different types of women. And one of them that always stands out in my head when I think back to this memory is I imagine a single mom folding laundry in Nebraska who literally doesn't even have time to remember that she matters and that she's beautiful. And I would rather have her look up on her TV and even not buy anything and see me showing women that look like her and stand for that than sell a shitload of product and stand for nothing. And I knew what I had to do, but sometimes when we know what we have to do, it doesn't mean it's easy. And when the live show happened and the countdown clock at 10 minutes started, and it was 9:59, 9:58, 9:50. And I'm like, oh shit. But you can't try to sell and you can't look freaked out, or nothing will sell either. And I just remember literally pouring everything I had on the air. And I remember the moment my bare face came up on national television, my bright red cheeks. And I remember going to all the different models that looked like, real people. And I'll never forget, it was I was shaking like a leaf. Oh my gosh. And then the whole cell, because everything was on the line. And then I remember right toward the end, the host was the deep shade is down to 200. The tan shade is almost, and I was like, what? Oh shit. Oh. And then I remember all of a sudden at the 10-minute mark, the sold out sign came up, and I literally tears streamed down my face. I remember my husband rushed through the double doors of the studio, and I looked at him, and they cut the live show, and boom, they're on to the next sell of the next product. I looked at him and I'm sobbing, and I'm real women have spoken. And he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And it was like this whole like thing. And that one show turned into 5 that year, 101 the next year, 151 the next year. And then we've done 250 live shows a year on QVC for 8 years in a row and built the largest beauty brand in QVC's history. It is right now at this moment to this day. And the only reason I share that is for every person listening. It was 3 years of no from QVC. It was Alan Burke saying, you are not the right fit for our customers or for QVC. And we finally did get a shot. And so 2 things about that. And by the way, oh my gosh. So by the way, okay, I love, for everyone listening, like literally no one can tell you are not the right fit, right? Like nobody can tell you that. And I feel in life, our own calling is always stronger than any opposition. Sometimes it feels like our opposition is huge, but your opposition cannot compete with your calling. And what it comes down to is which one you decide to listen to, right?
So good.
And like, so this part, so fast forward, we're on QVC now doing really, really well. And Alan Burke ends up, I get to know him. He's freaking a genius. He became our biggest champion, our biggest cheerleader. He's to this day right now, one of my closest mentors in my life. So awesome. And then he retired from QVC after like a million years there. I don't know how many decades, but he retired. And we ended up hiring him on our advisory board in a paid position. And it was this moment where I realized, Kathy, like, oh, the guy who rejected me is now working for me, right? And it was like, oh my gosh, like nobody can tell you how big your dream can be. No one can tell you you're not the right fit. And here's the last thing I'll say about this. I didn't take it personally when he said no, right? Mm-hmm. I've gotten a lot of rejections. You know, I talk about the investor who told me they wouldn't invest in someone because they wouldn't invest in our company because they didn't think women would buy makeup from someone who looked like me with my body and weight. Like I've had every type of rejection, and it's so easy for us because we're human to take these personally, right? And it wasn't that I wasn't hurt. It wasn't any of that. But professionally, I always made sure to not take it personally. I always made sure to treat it always as like, oh, this will be a yes one day. And then I'll decide if I want to partner with them, but it will be a yes one day. And I always had that attitude. And so with Alan, even after that tough no happened, Alan Burke at QVC, I still nurtured that relationship. And I still said, it's going to be a yes one day and all those things. And here's what I'll say, you guys, is, you know, I believe, and you, for everyone, it's different. For some people, it's God. For some people, it's a universe. For some people, it's love. I believe in perfect timing, even when it doesn't feel so perfect to us. And what I'll say about that is like, what I learned many years later is had Alan Burke said yes when I wanted him to, we would have failed miserably because I didn't know what I didn't know. And we were not operationally sophisticated enough to handle the back end of the business of an account the size of QVC. Wow. I just didn't know it. And sometimes our hardest no's in life are actually like serendipitous grace. Yeah, like totally wrapped in this package labeled painful rejection. Yep. And anyways, it was a big thing. God. Oh, one more thing. Sorry, I'm like live off the cuff with you, and I love it so much. But you asked something, and I just realized I forgot to answer it. Yeah. No, but you asked for people that think their idea has already been done, or they asked for right. One thing I want to share about that. I'm getting hyper right now because this is like, oh my gosh, so I talk about this lesson so much in the book because I wish I had learned this earlier. I wish I would have saved myself so many nights crying myself to sleep. If so many people talk themselves out of their dream, they talk themselves out of their truth because exactly what you said, they're like, oh, that person's doing so well with this idea already on social media. And this person did really well. And this person, oh no, here's the deal. Nobody, I don't even care how many, there was millions of makeup brands out there when we launched a makeup company. Please don't ever think that because your idea has already been done, that it impacts your ability to do it and succeed. It just doesn't. And when you look at all of the researchers that research authenticity and all of that, they talk about how it's impossible to have an authentic connection with another human being a real connection unless you show up authentically, right? If you show up as your representative or who you think the person wants you to be or whatever, you'll never have an authentic connection, which also can mean with your customers, because your customers are a relationship too, right? And with that said, as long as you show up fully, authentically who you are, it doesn't matter your idea's already been done. No one can do it the way you're going to do it. Like nobody can share it, express it, communicate it, create it the way you're going to do it. And so it's literally, as long as you're authentic and that through line of authenticity is in you, it's impossible for anyone else to have done your idea because they can't do it like you. It's impossible. And I just think that is so important. And I'll also say that because I've done now over 1,000 live shows on QVC myself. And the one thing that happens is you're there all hours of the day and night, because you might have a show at 3 a.m. or 3 p.m. The fun part of it, and the hours were very hard. I did it for 8 years. I spent almost every holiday in the QVC green room and all those things, which it was the biggest blessing. It allowed people to become aware of It Cosmetics, and we couldn't afford advertising at the time or anything. So it was the biggest gift. But one of the things that I loved most about it was that in the green room, even when you're stressed out in the green room at QVC, you get to meet so many other founders of companies, right? And you all end up bonding and all the things, the good, the bad. So not everyone's nice, but you meet a lot of people. And the through line, talking about authenticity, is when I look back at doing over 1,000 shows on QVC, one commonality between the people who make it and the people who don't, because most people go to QVC and they're on air one time, a couple times, and they're gone, right? Mm-hmm. And when I go, why is it some people make it and some people don't? It's never their personality type. It's actually, I wish I could say it was, but it's never even if they're nice. It's like, the one thing that I saw is the people who are the same on air, the people who are the same on air as they are off air, they're the people who last, right? Sometimes they're quirky and they're this and they're that and they're wild and you're like, they're crazy. And then they're that same way on air selling their product. They last because you can't fake authenticity. And viewers are smart, customers are smart, and they sense it, and they can't connect with you unless you're the same. Your heart is open and you're the freaking same. And the people that are even really great, awesome people, like good hearts in the green room, then they go on air and they're all of a sudden the professional representative that they think they're supposed to be, or they're really cool and funky because they think they're supposed to be, but that's not really who they are. They never last. And I feel like when people get this, it's freedom in so many ways, because it's so easy, especially in a social media world, to get distracted and compare ourselves and go, oh, this is working for so-and-so. Maybe I should do more of that. It's like, oh no, that's when you start to chip away at your own secret sauce and your own potential.
For one last line of questioning, and it's how, what I have experienced in my own life and having so many amazing folks on the show, yourself, Brene Brown, Arlen Hamilton, Richard Branson, so many folks who have created the success. It seems like there's a bunch of common threads, but one that I want to pull in right now and get your take is you scratched your own itch, right? That this solution to the problems that you were having with makeup as an on-air anchor it could be seen that is obtuse and out there, and how many people have this problem of being on camera and makeup cracking, and yet, here you are on the other side of, creating, as you mentioned, the largest, beauty brand that's going right now. You solved your own problem. How important was that? Did it, and what are the, give me like a little 360 on that. What were your thoughts at the time and your thoughts now, if you were going to give advice to someone? Because there are so many people that not only do they just have an instinct of maybe a direction to walk, but they don't know what to do, and they're looking to solve other people's problems. And I have a fear that if you try and solve other people's problems when the going gets tough, you don't have the conviction. But these are my words, and I want to hear yours.
Yeah, I think that, I think we always hear the classic entrepreneurial story, right? Of like, oh, I have a problem and nothing out there solves it. And I created something that did, and now it's a big success. So there's so many examples of that out there. But I also think that makes so many people put so much pressure on themselves that they think that they need to have something so, specific or personal to them for it to work, or they need to be solving their own problem for it to work. I think that, meaning for their dream to become successful or to catch on or to, I think that every single person, if they really follow like their own, how do I say this? It's almost like a gravitational force that you feel, right? You're knowing inside of what brings you joy. What do you have that just feels right, and you feel in flow when you're doing, and you feel called to do? I feel like that's the magic, not do I have a specific problem for me that I need to solve. I think that while that can be your gravitational pull, and that can be a really, really strong one because you have a really personal connection to it, I don't think that has to be there for somebody's dream to be as valid, as successful, as everything. I think that it's, I'm sure there are people that just feel pulled to paint on a canvas and express themselves, and their work serves the world and helps heal humanity through love and inspires other people and helps brighten their day and, helps them understand themselves better. I think that us really learning, again, going back to knowing, what is that thing that brings us joy, that makes us feel in alignment with our own, calling. And it's okay if you don't know that yet, right? It's okay if you haven't really figured that out yet. But I think it's a journey of paying attention to what feels right in your soul when you're doing it and when you're going after it and when you're creating it. And I think that if you don't have a specific problem, right? And to your point, if you're solving other people's problems, is that going to be enough? And what I would say is that, whether or not it's a specific problem to you, we hear so many thought leaders, and I know you probably had so many of them on your show, talking about how do you identify your why and your mission and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that, the biggest mistake I see people make in going after their dreams, or why they quit, even though they keep feeling like they're supposed to keep going, but they quit. I think a lot of people identify a why or their mission for why they're doing what they're doing. I think they identify one that sounds really good and it makes a lot of sense. And when they share it with other people, they're like, oh, that's so good. But at the end of the day, it's not deep enough and it's not meaningful enough to them personally to keep going when times are tough. And so if your problem you're solving isn't personal to you, I think whatever you're doing can equally work if your why is deep enough and personal enough to you. And an example of this would be, talking about solving other people's problems. So if I had created my makeup company and said, oh, I want to solve my own skin problems, I don't think that alone is a deep enough why, honestly, for me. If it was, oh, I want to help so many other women, right? This would be an example of one that sounds so good. I want to help millions of other women solve their skin problems. And that was my why. If I shared that with anyone else, they'd be like, you're amazing. That's so great. But like, is that really deep enough to keep me going every time I got knocked down for years? And so, or I want to make a lot of money, or I want to pay for my kids' college one day, whatever it is. Those things all sound so good. And what I would love to challenge everyone in your audience to do, because I think you have to attach a why to any goal or any dream, right? A lot of people keep like a goal journal and they write their goals, but they never attach a why to each one. And then they give up. I would challenge everyone for whether it's their creation or why they're creating, or their passion, or even their hobby, or a personal goal, or their business goal, is to really know your why, but then go, wait a minute, can I peel back the layers on this why and go way deeper? And what I mean by that is if my why would have been, let me solve my own problems on my skin, let me solve all the problems for so many other women and men out there who have given up on makeup, I don't think it would have been enough for me to keep going. But because, I had this moment, Chase, where I realized, oh my gosh, my whole life, all the ads I saw as a little girl showing me what beauty is, like, I love them. I aspire to look like those commercials, but they, even as a little girl, always made me feel like I wasn't enough. And my vision of trying to create a beauty company that redefined what beauty looks like for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself, and every grown person who still does. Like, that why was so painful to me from a whole life of identifying why it mattered to me to do this, that's really one of the biggest things that helped keep me going also during all the times of getting knocked down, or hearing no again, or when self-doubt would enter my head again. And so I don't think that your company or your business has to be solving your own problem, but I do think that it has to be attached to a why that is so deeply personal to you, that it helps sustain you in those times when it feels like you're the only person believing in yourself.
So let's go to that moment, Jamie. You're 3 years in.
Yeah.
You've burned through the money.
Yes.
You have been told no by everybody. And even though you have leveraged all of the steps that were ordered along the way, and like an amazing Denny's waitress, you can talk to anybody, you can hustle, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
You have nothing but closed doors in front of you.
Yes.
And a ton of product and no money.
Yes.
What is the turning point?
Yes.
Why did you not give up?
Yeah. So 2 big things happened. The first was in the form of a crazy, painful rejection. So I thought, Mel, so we got a call from a big potential investor, and very famous for launching all these sort of unknown brands and making them big products we all buy in grocery stores. And, and I thought, and they'd gotten a hold of our product. And I thought, like, oh, if they invest, then A, I'm not going to go bankrupt. B, like we can leverage their clout to get in these stores that keep telling me no.
Yeah.
Like, I had this whole scenario planned out that was like this Pretty Woman moment, right? Where I was like, oh, he's going to save the day. And so we started taking meeting after meeting, and it got down to the final meeting with this huge investment firm. And it was in person. My husband and I actually flew to the meeting. And the head guy was about 3 feet from me.
Yeah.
And his whole team was there, who was awesome. I had just presented our whole future product pipeline. And he says, you should be so proud of this product you've created. It's really, really good. But it's a no. We're going to pass on investing in IT Cosmetics. And I was like, okay, can you tell me why? Because I'm so used to hearing no. And I was like, okay, even though really I was devastated. But
well, yeah, because they just led you on and you just went through it. And this was supposed to be the meeting where they're like, let's do this.
And I was so hopeful and I was so desperate.
Yeah.
And he got very quiet and he says to me, do you want to know, I said, can you tell me why? And he says to me, do you want me to be really honest with you? And I said, yes, please. And he got really quiet and he's like 3 feet from me in person. And he says, I just don't think women will buy makeup from someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. And when he said that to me, and this is why it was such a big moment for me, when he said that to me, first of all, a lifetime of body doubt and self-doubt. Like, I remember it flooding my body all at once. And when I looked at him, I actually felt no anger toward him. I felt like I was almost like staring my own fear straight in the eye. But when he said those words to me, Mel, and this is when we talk about purpose and intuition, he said, I just don't think women will buy makeup for someone who looks like you with your body and your weight. The second he said that, I felt this feeling in my gut. Like, I can remember it like it was yesterday, this like strong feeling that said, he's wrong. Like, I felt it, right? And I didn't know how I was going to prove it, but I felt that feeling. And what I realized later when I look back at that moment, this dude gave me a no but God gave me a knowing in that moment. And I believe every one of us has had someone tell us we're not the right fit, or no, or you don't have what it takes. Sometimes we're the ones telling ourselves that.
I don't love you anymore.
Yes, right? But if you get still and you learn to hear your knowing, I believe which one you listen to. If you listen to the no, all the no's, all the rejections, all the self-doubt, or you get still and listen to your knowing, whether that's from your own intuition, from your creator, from the universe, whatever speaks to you, but we all have it. And I believe our life and our purpose and our entire destiny comes down to which one we listen to. Do you listen to the no, or do you listen to the knowing?
Okay, I promised a masterclass. That right there is worth $1 billion. In life, are you going to listen to the no, or are you going to listen to the knowing inside of you? That's it.
Yeah.
As somebody who loves you and as your friend, when you shared that story with me and hearing you tell it again right now, I literally go, I'm going to kill that motherfucker. I go, I have that, my knowing goes, oh yeah? Oh yeah? You think, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me show you. Like it's that, like I get that sort of mojo thing going when somebody says no like that at a moment like that. It's like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And I guess I just got in this moment sort of this wake-up call that my knowing often feels like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
You missed out. You'll be sorry. What does yours sound like?
And it's almost always true. That's almost always true, right?
What does yours sound like? So is yours like, or is it more of like?
I mean, in that case, I was devastated and at the same time had this strong, it was just a peace. Honestly, in that moment, it was a peace. He's wrong. And that didn't make sense in my head. Why? Because I had had 3 years of hundreds of rejections. And this is the thing, right? Jay-Z says the genius thing we did was we didn't give up. That's like one of my favorite quotes of his. In that moment, everything told me to give up, Mel. I mean, it was hundreds of rejections. And now what felt like my last hope of desperation told me something totally different. No, because not only do I not believe in anything you're doing necessarily, but I actually just think you're personally not the right fit. Like women just won't buy makeup from me. It was just like, oh my gosh, it was like all of these no's everywhere. And I want to share that because it's easy for someone to go, oh, wow, she built $1 billion company. She must have just got lucky. Or maybe she just had so many connections. Or we always think, but really what it comes down to sometimes, in this case, that big moment for me, do you listen to the no's or you listen to the knowing, right?
Yeah.
And I made that decision that day to trust the knowing, to trust myself. I kept feeling like I was supposed to keep going. I didn't know how, right? And
what do you do when you don't even know the next step? So you got this kind of, jerk who's like, yeah, they're not going to buy it because of your body type and this, that, and the other thing. You're like, yeah you're wrong, motherfucker. Yeah. But what do you do next?
And so the next right step, the next thing that feels right when you can't even see how the heck it's going to work out.
How do you even determine what the next right step is?
Yeah, you just get, for me, I just get still. I pray, you know that.
Yeah.
I pray. And but whether for you, listening, it's prayer or it's the universe or your intuition, when you get still, all you can do is try to listen, right? And try to live that answer, whatever it is, and take that next right step. And I just had this knowing I was supposed to keep going. And even when it didn't make sense. And I remember crying myself to sleep. I remember writing in my journal, know your why, then fly, girl, fly. And I read those words every day till I didn't need the reminder. I would Google stories of people that had gone through thousands of rejections who no one would know that they went through them because they're so successful today. Or, and I just kept trying to sort of build this toolbox of things I could lean on. And
how did QVC come about? Because you built It Cosmetics and it became, because of you, the most successful beauty brand on all of QVC. You did over 1,000 appearances.
Yeah.
So how did you even get onto QVC? Because that in and of itself is no small feat.
Yeah, well, their head guy of beauty, who's like a legend, had said no to me many times. No, you're not the right fit. And I happened to be at this big beauty expo.
And was this before or after this guy was like, no, we're not investing?
After.
After? So she has now gotten 3 years of no's.
Yeah.
They're almost out of money. Her intuition is knowing that she's going to fly, girl, fly. So she is still showing up to a beauty expo where I want you to understand, in the business world, it's like going to a convention where everybody that you have ever fooled around with, who has then broken up with you, is attending. So everybody that has said no to her, she walks in and it's like, oh, here's this chick again. The it chick, right?
Yep.
The it cosmetics person that has been sending me the stuff and calling me, and we have told her no, do not make eye contact. So you are now at this thing.
This describes it exactly.
Yes.
Everyone you fooled around with, who broke up with you, and they're like, oh, don't make eye contact.
Oh,
it's
God,
that.
this chick again with the skin, okay.
Yep.
So you're at this thing. You've been told no by the big person. It's been 3 years. So we're talking like 2011, 2012-ish. What do you do?
So you get this 3-foot table, right? It's a huge convention. There's 6,000 women at this convention.
Wow.
They're walking up and down, and it's every beauty brand in the world.
Are they buying it for their stores or?
No. So what it is, it was this big Cosmetic Executive Women Awards show.
Okay.
And why you're there is you get a 3-foot table. You're demonstrating your product. You're hoping that someone who walks by either wants to carry your product in their stores, or all the press is there.
Right.
They cover your product. Or there's also, you can win some big award. So I'm there, and then all the brands you can imagine, right, are there. And there's 6,000 women walking. And when I got there, I saw QVC had this huge booth in the background, and you're not allowed to leave your table, right? And I couldn't afford to get kicked out. But I just kept having this feeling like, okay, I've called them a million times. They've told me no forever, but I've never met anyone in person, right? So I kept trying to sneak away from my table. And every time I got over there, the buyers would be mobbed with people. I eventually got over there, made my way to one of the buyers, introduced myself, poured my heart out. I remember sweat just dripping through my clothes because I was freaking out, down to no money.
Yeah.
I'll cut a real long story short, but she gave me her card. It's like when someone says, oh, DM me on Instagram. You don't know if they really mean it. Then you're on your Instagram checking your DMs and you're like, oh, they still haven't replied. And I thought, is that what it's going to be like? But she actually meant it. And I flew out, had a meeting with her. We got a yes, my first big yes, for one shot on QVC. And what it meant, Mel, was I was going to get this 10-minute segment live on the air, live in front of 100 million homes. And I either had to sell enough product to hit their sales goal or not come back. We were only doing 1 to 2 orders a day on our website.
Okay.
And
1 to 2 orders a day, everybody.
Yep.
After almost 3 years of this.
Yeah.
This
and
is
barely keeping the lights on.
And so now you get your shot. There are those moments in life.
Yes.
You're at bat.
Yep.
And you got to be ready for those.
Yeah.
And so put us right there with you. What happened?
Yeah. What happened was I was about to learn one of the greatest life lessons I've ever learned to this day. And here's what I mean by that. So I found out I get one shot. And then I learned it's consignment, which means so first of all, I had to sell over 6,000 units of our concealer in this 10-minute window to hit their sales goal or not come back, which was about $130,000 or $140,000 of product in a 10-minute window.
I also want to point out to everybody, that's 10 years of sales on her website at the current amount.
Yeah.
So in 10 minutes, everybody, she, on live television, has to move 10 years worth of volume she was selling on her website at that time.
In one shot.
One shot. And she'd never done this before. I realize you were a television anchor, but this is a totally different thing.
Well, QVC, it's unlike stores where you can walk in and there's thousands of products in one space. Their 1 minute of airtime can get one product. So you're competing with the volume of Apple iPhone or Dyson vacuum. You have to hit these high sales goals.
Yeah.
And what I quickly learned was the offer was consignment, which meant I wasn't guaranteed to be paid for it. I had to figure out how to get a loan to cover the cost of manufacturing 6,000 units of product, shipping it in, going through legal, going through QC, going through all of it. And then I learned if I go on air and it doesn't sell, I have to take it all back
Oh my God.
and therefore go out of business, right? So you should never, ever, ever accept a purchase order you can't afford to lose, ever. But at this point, it was like, I don't know what else to do. This is it.
The shot.
This is it. And so here's what happened. We went to 22 banks that all said no, and they probably should have. The 23rd bank, which was California Bank and Trust, and gave us a loan that covered our very first purchase order and a little bit more. So I took the little bit more. We hired third-party consultants. I'm like, I'm going all in. I want to do the best 10 minutes I could possibly do. I want to have no regrets. And they all told me the same thing.
Which is,
if you want a chance at making it, here's what you need to do. You need to use this type of model to demonstrate your product, which is flawless skin, early 20s, all the same skin tone. And I'm like, okay, but that's inauthentic. That's not why I'm building this brand. I'm like, what if I put models in their 70s and someone with hyperpigmentation and someone with acne and what if I take my own makeup off on national TV and I could prove live how the product works? And they were mortified. And here's the thing, Mel, they wanted me to win. Like they were giving me the best advice that they know how. And
this had never been done. So is this 2011?
This is 2010. Yeah,
so 2010, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So this was not something people did.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about the person who changed the industry right here. And this is the moment you're hearing it. And everybody that were the quote experts were saying no. And this goes back to one of the major takeaways that you were learning from our professor of purpose, Jamie Kern Lima. And that is there's a huge difference between a no and a knowing.
Yeah.
And if you're the only you that will ever exist, your knowing is the unique difference that you're going to make in this world.
Yes.
And in this moment, with one shot to go, everything on the line, a loan from 1 out of 23 banks that was willing, she said, no way to the fricking experts. And she listened to her knowing. So when you walked into QVC with normal human beings, no flawless models, no one with perfect skin, all ages, all body types.
Yep.
Did people say, wait, you can't take them on the air? Or was there any, were people like, oh, this is going to be terrible? Like, what was that like when you walked in? Did they even know you were going to take your makeup off?
I let them know I wanted to. And QVC was great. Here's the thing about QVC is like, they want everyone to be their authentic selves. It's just, this has never been done this way before.
Okay.
And I wish I could say it was easy for me to just go, I'm just going to go with my knowing. But the truth is I flew out there a week early, Mel. I sat in a rental car in the parking lot, cried every day. I actually second guessed myself. I'm like, if I do it, maybe I'll do it their way first, then I'll make money, then I'll do it my way. But I know that, authenticity, you can't fake authenticity. And authenticity alone doesn't automatically guarantee success. But what I do know is inauthenticity guarantees failure. Every time.
Okay, everybody stop. The professor classes in session. Did you hear that? That inauthenticity, being fake, trying to do something everybody else's way, because that's just, you're too insecure to do it your way.
Yeah.
That never guarantees success.
Yeah.
Authenticity, your knowing, your special spin on things.
Yeah.
That is the pathway to purpose and success.
Yeah.
There is no other way.
Yep.
And so after a week of crying in your rental car in the parking lot at QVC, you were like, I'm going with the knowing.
I'm going with the knowing.
And so tell us about that first appearance. You're standing there on a television set. There's a bazillion cameras. The lights are bright.
Yeah.
You got your models there.
Yeah.
You're taking the risk of your lifetime on live television in front of 100 million homes.
Yes.
You are doing something that has never been done on television before.
Yeah, I remember literally I wore 2 pairs of Spanx, Mel, not because I cared how I looked, but I was so freaked out. Like my hands were shaking and I was sweating through my clothes. So I had on double Spanx under my dress. And I remember the moment the camera went live, right? And there's a big countdown clock on the floor that started at 10 minutes. And by the way, a minute or two before I went onto the set, I learned you're not guaranteed your 10 minutes.
Why?
If you are a minute or two into your cell and you're not hitting numbers, they know by the second. Your clock, you might think you have 8 minutes still to go, and your clock will jump to 1 or jump to 2 minutes left.
Because your product's a flop.
Yep, exactly.
And you're a flop. So you literally are racing against the clock to be successful out of the gate. So what did you do to like hook everybody? Did you take your makeup off right away? Did you what did you do?
So I, first of all, I go out of the, I go live. I remember it was like 9:59, 9:58, 9:50, and I'm like, and I remember I had practiced in my bathroom mirror, right? So many times. If I had known the high five habit then, I would have been way more confident. But I was practicing in the bathroom mirror this demonstration 1,000,000 times on my wrist, how our concealer doesn't crease and the best 2 selling concealers crease. And I'd done this demonstration like this where I show it and they all start to crease. So I'm holding my wrist up, trying to do this as we go live to show that, but my hand's like this now. And it was never like shaking when I was doing it 1,000,000 times.
It wouldn't bend, everybody. Like she was so anxiety-ridden that she's sweating through her 2 pairs of Spanx, and her wrist will not bend, so she cannot demonstrate that her product won't crease.
Yes, and the host grabbed my wrist and was like, "Thank you, sugar," and she took over. And then I remember my bright red bare face before shot coming up on national television. I remember walking over to our models, real women, all shapes, sizes, skin tones, skin challenges, calling them beautiful, meaning it. I remember.
So when did you take your makeup off? When she grabbed your hand and said, "Thank you, sugar"?
Yeah.
Did that wake you up,
sweet.
or were you like?
I was like out of my body. I was just
did you like just then take your makeup off?
Well, they did a whole bare face before shot of me for that show. I've taken it off live 1,000,000 times since. That first show, it was like, bare face before shot and then the after. And I remember walking over to them. I remember we were, 6 or 7 minutes in. I didn't know how we were doing, but I knew we weren't cut yet. And then it got down to like a minute left. And the host said, the deep shade's almost gone. The tan shade's almost sold out. And I was like, freaking out. And I remember literally right at the 10-minute mark, this giant sold out sign came up across the screen and I start crying on national television.
Oh, I love you.
They cut from me and went to like Dyson vacuum or something. And I remember my husband came rushing through the double doors of the studio and and he's like, has his arms up and I'm just sobbing and I'm like, real women have spoken. And I'm just like crying. And I thought he was going to give me a hug or be all excited. And he just looked at me and he's like, we're not going bankrupt. And I was like, ah! And I just, that one airing, which was September of 2010, became 5 more that year, then 101 the next year. And then I did 250 live shows a year myself, direct live on QVC year after year. So we built the biggest beauty brand in QVC's history. And the only reason that I share that is because it was years of no, and you're not the right fit. And what I love for anyone listening who needs to hear this is no one can tell you you're not the right fit. No one. And you can get all the no's in the world, but you have your knowing. And by the way, I believe this, Mel. I believe even when you trust your knowing and then it seems like it was wrong and things don't go your way over and over and over. Like I look back at those moments, right? I really wanted that investor to invest in us. Thank God he didn't. When I say everything's happening for us, what I mean is like, I was so desperate that if he would have invested in us then, I probably would have given him the majority of the company for probably almost no money. Right. By the time, many years, 6 years later, after that day, 6 years later, when L'Oreal bought this little company I started in my living room for $1.2 billion cash, it was still, I was the largest shareholder. Paulo and I were the largest shareholders. And I look back and it's like, oh gosh, thank God. All the no's happened when they did, even when they sucked, even when it felt like it wasn't fair. And I can look at that in many scenarios. Sometimes we don't have some big positive outcome, but we learn a purpose through a no.
Right.
We learn a calling through a no. We learn a lesson. We build strength. We build resiliency. We appreciate the beautiful moments so much more when we've gone through the tough ones.
So have you ever seen that investor since?
I have not seen him. The day that
Of course, I asked the petty question. I'm like, have you ever seen him to twist the little knife in there? Okay.
So I heard from him one time ever again. And it was 6 years later, the day that L'Oreal announced the deal. So because they're a public company, they announced, that they had acquired It Cosmetics, made me the first woman to hold a CEO title of a brand in their 107-year history. They did the big press release. So
That's kind of surprising. 107 years, L'Oreal, a makeup company. It took them that long to have the first female CEO of a brand.
I hope they have many more now. That is my prayer. Yeah.
You were the trailblazer there too.
It's been, so many things. It's been a journey. And here's the thing, Mel, it was another woman inside L'Oreal. It was Carol Hamilton, who was head of luxury for North America. She'd been there, 30 plus years. And she championed for me to keep my CEO title, all the things. Like, it was another woman saying, oh, and it's funny because I actually think she should have been the first woman. You know what I mean? And I think, again, there's an example, by the way, of I believe, I'm not going to speak for her, I believe she knows. This is my opinion. I think she probably knows she should be the first female CEO. But look how she used what she went through to then, boom, be of purpose and of service and help make sure that I kept my CEO title. Everything we go through. But so they announced it, right? So all of a sudden it was homepage of the Wall Street Journal, the press everywhere. And that was the first time and only time since that I heard from that potential investor.
And what did he say?
He said, congratulations on the L'Oreal deal. I was wrong, is what he said, and wished me the best of luck. And
that's a big deal to admit you're wrong.
It is. And so when you speak about petty, so what I did say to him was thank you. But what I wanted to say,
what did you want to say?
So in that moment, here's what I thought about. I thought about, do you remember the movie Pretty Woman where like she goes in the store and they wouldn't help her? And then she goes back. Remember when she goes back?
Yes.
So I wanted to say to him, big mistake. Huge. I could give you 1.2 billion reasons why it was a huge mistake. But I didn't. I wouldn't have wanted to be him in that situation. We probably would have been one of the most successful investments in his firm's history, And so, listen, it wasn't I always say rejection is God's protection so often,
There's another one, everybody. Rejection is God's protection.
Yeah.
It's a good way to frame it. And I think when you look in the rearview mirror, you know that all the rejections you've faced, especially in relationships, were there to protect you. I think the true thing that you've taught me through your story and through the example that you continue to set, Jamie, is that true power and grace and grit and belief is about seeing that in front of you, not behind you. That the rejections that you're facing right now, that you can look ahead and realize it's protecting you in this moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.